The story begins with an old man named Michael. That morning, he goes to his regular bank to ask about a letter that recently arrived at his home. The letter was actually an early warning telling Michael to immediately pay his loan installments, or the bank would seize his house. Ironically, it was the same bank and the same manager who once offered Michael the loan in the first place, and even encouraged him to reinvest the money so he could enjoy the interest. Unfortunately, all of this was part of the bank's trick. They already knew that elderly people are easily misled and rarely read the loan terms carefully. Even after Michael tries to explain everything, the manager purposely blames him for not understanding the loan offer properly. In the middle of their conversation, 3 heavily armed men suddenly storm into the bank and start firing into the air, terrifying everyone. From their behavior and movements, it is clear that they are professional robbers. Interestingly, one of the robbers approaches Michael and talks to him for quite a while. He sympathizes with Michael's situation.
It's not much, but it's all yours.
No, my friend, not from you. It is a culture's duty to take care of its elderly.
And explains that this is exactly why they hate the American banking system so much, and why they decided to rob it. The bank manager is so terrified that he even wets his pants, which at least gives Michael a little moment of entertainment. A short time after the robbers leave, the FBI arrives to question the witnesses. Michael immediately reports that one of the robbers had a tattoo on his neck. At the very least, this could be a useful clue for identifying the culprit. He also tells them that if they can find the tattoo parlor where it was made, they can easily track down the robber. But the officer gives Michael's information almost no importance.
If we need any additional information, then we'll get in contact with you.
Oh, you'll need my address and phone number.
Not necessary.
That night, Michael is watching the news and sees the same FBI agent repeating his exact words about the tattoo, the same words the agent had laughed at earlier. The news also shows a sketch of the tattoo and asks anyone who recognizes the artist to contact the authorities. Yesterday's incident is still fresh in Michael's mind. The next morning, when he meets his 2 best friends, he can't stop himself from telling the whole story of how the robbers executed the heist. But the conversation suddenly ends when all 3 of them receive an unexpected message. They are being called to attend a workers' union meeting. Michael and his 2 best friends have known each other for decades. They met while working at the same factory. Sadly, that afternoon the company announces that their pension funds can no longer be paid because, within the next 25 days, the company is shifting all its manufacturing to Vietnam. During this process, all pension funds are frozen and might never be released again. After returning from the meeting, Michael and his friends feel frustrated. Their daily needs depend entirely on their pensions. To make things worse, Michael's 2 friends don't even own their own homes. They have to pay rent every month, and now they have no idea where the money will come from. Still, they try to believe that everything will eventually work out. But a few days later, the situation becomes even worse. Michael's friend Franklin is suffering from kidney failure. He had been secretly visiting the hospital for dialysis, but the doctor now tells him that his condition has become serious, and only a kidney transplant can save him. The problem is that due to his age, the insurance company refuses to put his name on the donor recipient list. Even then, Franklin doesn't seem to care anymore. According to him, he doesn't have much time left anyway. His only regret is that he can't visit his granddaughter every month because of financial difficulties. Meanwhile, Michael's other friend Trevor is a former musician. To earn some extra money, he teaches kids how to play the saxophone. But who could have imagined that the noisy practice sessions of these children would constantly give him headaches? Interestingly, the grandmother of one of his students has had a crush on Trevor for a long time. When he was young, she often came to his concerts. Trevor never expected that at this age someone would still like him. That night, they all gather again at the retirement home to celebrate Franklin's birthday. In that moment, Michael suddenly shares an idea. He wants to rob a bank. Naturally, both of his friends immediately reject the idea. How could 3 old men possibly rob a bank? They could barely get up from a chair, let alone overpower guards. The discussion ends when Franklin's birthday celebration suddenly begins. But when it's time for Franklin to make a wish, something changes inside him. He becomes restless. He realizes that many things he wanted in life never came true, and his luck only got worse, especially now that the company stole their pension money. so maybe robbing a bank could actually be a solution. Besides, if the plan fails, life in prison doesn't sound too bad. After all, they don't have much time left to live anyway. Now they just need one more person. Michael and Franklin try hard to convince Trevor to change his mind. But Trevor is famous for being stubborn. He never imagined his friends could be crazy enough to even consider robbing a bank. The next morning, Michael and Franklin take Trevor to a supermarket. Michael tells Trevor to stay in the car. But who would have guessed that their real plan is to rob the supermarket as a trial run for the bank heist? One by one, they start stuffing groceries inside their clothes. Naturally, Trevor thinks his friends have lost their minds, so he decides to watch them from a distance. The problem is that Patricia works there, and Trevor won't stop flirting with her. Meanwhile, the store has many security guards. Although they sense something suspicious, they never imagined that two old men would dare to steal anything. As a result, Michael and Franklin successfully smuggle out all the stolen items. But when it is time to escape, Trevor is still inside the store chatting, which forces Michael to steal a customer's scooter. Franklin also jumps onto Michael's new getaway vehicle. A chase begins, and the two old men try every trick they can think of to escape the guards. At one point they throw bread at a guard, and at another they try to create a smoke screen using flour. Unfortunately, none of their attempts work. Eventually, one of the store's security guards catches both of them. Trevor is also detained, even though he didn't steal anything. The guards simply ran after him, and Trevor panicked and reacted. All of their actions are caught on camera. The store manager is completely confused after watching the footage. How could three weak, elderly men have the courage to rob his store? Even funnier is the fact that they stole cooking ingredients, things no real thief would ever bother taking. Because of this, instead of reporting them to the police, the manager decides to forgive their actions. Feeling sorry for their age, he even gives them a few discount coupons and warns them not to steal again. And if they ever do, at least they should not steal from his store. But the entire incident only makes Trevor even angrier with his friends, and he decides to go home first. Meanwhile, Michael realizes that they cannot rob a bank without guidance from an expert. That expert is Michael's former son-in-law, James. He makes a living by selling marijuana and was once known as a small-time gangster. Michael's real purpose in meeting him is to ask whether James knows someone who can help them plan a bank robbery. The next morning, the three friends meet again at a restaurant. Trevor is still upset about yesterday's events, but suddenly a news report appears in the newspaper. They will never receive a single penny of their pension. This changes Trevor's mind instantly. Now he wants to fight against this injustice, and he agrees to join the bank robbery, especially because their pension money is stored in that very bank. On James's recommendation, Michael meets a pet shop owner named Lester, who is a former professional robber. They bring him a bag of marijuana as a bribe and promise that the stolen money will be split equally. At first, Lester doesn't believe in their plan, but Michael unexpectedly proves just how determined he is. These three old men are not criminals. They're only trying to take back what belongs to them. That's why Michael refuses to steal more than the amount of their pension. If they end up taking extra money, they will donate the rest. After all, Michael's house will be seized by the bank in 20 days. Before that happens, they must execute their robbery plan. Lester teaches them a lot of things, starting with gathering information about the bank employees and the building layout, deciding which escape vehicle to use, and most importantly, preparing a strong alibi. Basically, even if the police start suspecting them, Michael and his friends must have perfect explanations ready. Coincidentally, on the day of the robbery, the elderly community is organizing a carnival. Lester warns them that they will only have 5 minutes before the police arrive. So, the three men practice almost every day, running simulations until they can complete everything within the required time limit. Lester also teaches them how to use firearms, just in case the robbery doesn't go according to plan. Now, the most important thing was their age. Lester told them to do exercise and yoga every day so that on the day of the heist, no one would suspect that they were old men. All preparations are finally complete. The day before the robbery, Michael and Franklin are naturally nervous, but they try to encourage each other. Through all of this, Michael is like a father to his granddaughter. Every day he makes her breakfast, takes her to school, and picks her up later. If the robbery fails, he worries about what will happen to her. Because of this, he starts teaching James all the responsibilities he will have to take over if Michael ends up in jail. And then, the day of the robbery arrives. Since morning, the three old men are working at the carnival. The film creates suspense here, because before the robbery begins, they all seem busy with their tasks. Michael works at the cotton candy booth, while Franklin guards the haunted house. but the moment the clock strikes 2:30 p.m., they all quickly change their clothes, and the robbery finally begins. Ironically, Trevor, who was the most against stealing anything, suddenly becomes the most professional. His acting terrifies all the employees and customers inside the bank. As everyone drops flat onto the floor, Michael and Franklin begin collecting money from every counter. Instead of staying focused, Franklin gets distracted by a small girl.
You can have her, mister.
I don't want to take your doll, sweetheart. You know, when my granddaughter was your age, she had one just like it.
You okay, mister?
Gonna need a little help.
Lucy. His mask's too hot for him.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you.
The situation grows even more chaotic when Franklin struggles to breathe through his mask. The bank staff take advantage of the moment and secretly press the emergency button. The manager even tries to grab a gun from the floor and threatens to shoot. Luckily, because he is panicking so much, every shot completely misses. Despite all the unexpected chaos, Michael and his friends manage to leave the bank right on time, but their plan is not over yet. They still have many steps to complete to make sure their mission ends perfectly. Long story short, once everything goes according to plan, the three of them celebrate that night at a fancy restaurant. But on their way home, Franklin's condition suddenly worsens. He had never told his friends about his kidney disease. Michael and Trevor are heartbroken and say they would do anything for him. They are even willing to donate their kidneys if necessary. Meanwhile, after reviewing the bank's CCTV footage, the FBI finally begins discovering clues about the robbers. Interestingly, the same mini-market manager from the earlier incident sees the footage on television and immediately notices similarities between Trevor and one of the masked robbers. He quickly reports his discovery to the FBI. As a result, the next morning, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor are all taken into custody for further interrogation. Surprisingly, even after being arrested, the three old men remain incredibly calm as they answer Agent Steve's questions. And even more shocking, the alibis they created are far more perfect than anyone expected. If you look closely, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor tried their best to live the previous day as normally as possible so that no one around them would suspect they were involved in the robbery. And although they left the carnival for almost 60 minutes, they had already prepared tricks to make everyone believe that the three of them had never left the location at all. Even funnier, when the FBI tried to interrogate Michael's friends, they struggled to get any useful information. Most of the witnesses were elderly and forgetful. Not only that, but all evidence from the previous day had already been destroyed. Meanwhile, the stolen money had been handed over to Lester for laundering. There was actually a reason why Michael and his friends used a minibus during the robbery. It turns out that the vehicle was originally used to transport carnival participants, and Franklin had stolen it during the event. After the robbery, they quickly blended back into the crowd, making their alibi even stronger. Still, the FBI did not give up. The three men were taken to a hospital and placed in a neat line, each sitting in a wheelchair. The FBI wanted the little girl from the bank to identify the robber. As you know, the girl briefly saw Franklin's face and his wristwatch during the robbery. But to everyone's surprise, even though the girl recognized the culprit, she chose to lie. She was still impressed by Franklin's kindness during the robbery, and as she left, she gave him a sweet little smile. Because of this, Agent Steve was left with no choice. The key witness gave a completely different statement, and Michael and his two friends had to be released from all charges. Sometime later, Lester returned to Michael to deliver all the laundered money. Interestingly, he did not take any share for himself. From the beginning, he helped them purely out of sympathy. In fact, Lester was the same robber we saw at the beginning of the film. During their conversation, Agent Steve suddenly appeared. He came to return Michael's wallet, which had been left behind in the interrogation room. The situation became tense because Lester had just openly talked about his crimes, and on top of that, the dog cage he brought had a pile of cash clearly visible inside. But luckily, Steve didn't pay attention to any of that, and Michael quickly signaled Lester to stay quiet. As promised, all the money taken in excess of their pensions was donated. But instead of giving it to random people, Michael decided to help fellow elderly individuals who were struggling financially. The friendship between Michael, Franklin, and Trevor was truly extraordinary. So strong that they were even willing to donate a kidney to help one of them return to a normal life. Sometime later, we see everyone celebrating the wedding of Trevor and Patricia. Who would have thought that Patricia and Trevor would get married at this age? Amusingly, shortly after the ceremony, Trevor admitted that he didn't even remember proposing to her, but now that they were married, he didn't have much of a choice. And with that, the video comes to an end.